I'm Jeff Bishop. I'm the co-founder of RagingBull.com. I'm one of the top real money options traders.
Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. I put a brat in timeout, entitled Mom Wants to Sue. And after that, when Karen used disabled students against me, she didn't expect this. Now Karen assured me if we can get 1,000 likes on this video, she won't try suing anyone else for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And by the way, join as an official member of the Re-Army today and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. I put a brat in timeout, entitled Mom Wants to Sue. About 5 years ago, when I was 20, I used to work as a yard supervisor at the local elementary school while I was on break from college. Wasn't much, but I'd get at least a month's worth of work in the summer and then a week in the winter. They were super lenient with my hours, probably because they tended to be short-handed, and also my mother worked at the school as a teacher too. I've told this story to so many people so many times, people might recognize me on here, but whatever. If you don't know what a yard supervisor is, we're the people who stand in the lunchroom or on the playground during recess and make sure everyone is behaving. Basically, glorified babysitters. I was the youngest of my coworkers, since the others who worked there were women who had kids that attended that school. For some background, this school was in the rich part of town. The kind of elementary school situated in a nice suburban neighborhood where everyone has a Cadillac SUV and maybe a BMW, Mercedes, or Tesla as their second car. And they loved to try to solve all their inconveniences with lawyers. I always thought it was a stereotype that the rich people in town would threaten you with their lawyers when they didn't get what they wanted. Most of the time, they were bluffing though. Anyways, among the fourth graders at this school, there was this kid named Hannah. Honestly, don't remember, but her name may have actually been Hannah. I doubt it matters though. She was your classic playground bully. Notorious liar. Loved to pick on anyone smaller than her, which, considering her size, there were plenty of kids for her to choose from, and had quite the temper. She was also supposed to be in 5th grade, but had been held back a year, and she had this other girl named Sierra as her crony. Hannah always initiated the trouble and would boss Sierra around to do her bidding. She would even turn on Sierra occasionally. One time, I witnessed Hannah shove Sierra, and then run up to me telling me Sierra shoved her. Sierra, getting mad, would then shove Hannah, and at this point I'd send them both to the principal's office, and to my knowledge, they'd just get off with a warning. Sierra's not important to this story though. Just wanted to add that bit so you can kind of picture Hannah and her like Scoot Farkas and his crony. The situation was almost identical. None of my coworkers, including Hannah's teacher, liked Hannah. She was notorious for causing trouble and then making up elaborate lies to cover herself. Everyone knew this and had warned me when I first started the job. If you're wondering why nothing was ever done, or why this kid never got therapy, I have no idea. This was the US public education system, and also her mother was a jerk, which I'll get to later. One day I'm working in the lunchroom, and I overhear Hannah calling another student names and making them cry. Supposedly, she had also hit him, but none of us witnessed it, though we wouldn't put it past her. We remove Hannah from the table and make her sit at this table we have reserved for delinquents while we write up a note to send to the principal. At best, she would get detention, or perhaps a couple days suspension, since this is a recurring problem. The bell for recess rings, and we make Hannah stay inside and sit at the table in timeout. No recess for her that day. The rest of the story I was not here for. I was only told the rest by my coworkers the next day. Hannah, returning to class, goes to her teacher and tells her, "The young yard duty hit me and called me names." I'm the young yard duty, being 20 while my coworkers were at least in their 40s. The teacher knows she's lying and tells her to take it up with the principal, since such a claim is serious. Hannah doesn't like the principal, so she instead, after school, goes to one of the other yard supervisors and tells her the same thing. That yard supervisor was working with me in the lunchroom that day and knew no such thing happened, and tells her not to tell lies. Hannah, of course, then goes to her mom. Hannah's mom had as much as a reputation around the school as Hannah did for being just an all-around unpleasant person. Hannah's mom is also under the impression that her daughter could never do any wrong and that the school was constantly trying to pick on her. I think her claim was the school was bullying her for being fat or too pretty. It was one or the other, maybe both, since my only knowledge about this came from my coworkers. So you can probably guess her reaction when Hannah told her the story she made up. Hannah's mom, entitled Mom for now, goes straight to the school principal, starts yelling at the principal, and demands legal action be taken. The principal, having been already notified of Hannah's behavior in the lunchroom that day, and being well acquainted with both Hannah and Entitled Mom's behavior, told Entitled Mom the real story. Entitled Mom insists I must have actually done this, and that she's been bullied this entire time at school, and that saying Hannah did these things must be me trying to cover my butt, and that I must be on a power trip or something. She demands a lawsuit against me and wants me in the office to face her. I had already left work for the day, and the principal was under no obligation to call me and didn't care to entertain Entitled Mom with her antics anyway. The principal then tells her if I did do these things, then she should file a police report. Entitled Mom agrees, but this is where Hannah snaps. For some reason, perhaps just the way police are portrayed to kids as these heroes who will find you out, Hannah is terrified of the thought of having to talk to the police. So finally Hannah starts crying and spills that she made it up, and that nobody had hit her, and that she was just mad about missing recess for a timeout. Entitled Mom, of course, now believes Hannah had been coerced into admitting this, because why would her little angel lie? Entitled Mom storms out of the office, claiming she'll still get her lawsuit, and that's the last I hear about her. No lawsuit ever came, thankfully, because I know my broke college butt would never be able to afford it. Many of my coworkers told me that they've had lawsuits threatened on them from various parents aside from Entitled Mom, but they never came to anything. It was almost a game for how many lawsuit threats you could get during your time at that school. One of my coworkers, before she ended up being fired for a claim Hannah made against her, that's another story. Principal didn't get a choice in it, and our school board, which was also just crappy in more ways than one, decided she had too many claims against her and that she should be let go, taught me a great quote from that ordeal. The bad apple doesn't fall too far from the bad tree. Have you ever dealt with bullies when you were in school? Please leave me a comment letting me know. Next we've got, when Karen used disabled students against me, she didn't expect this. Back in 2003, when unemployed, I decided to volunteer at a local education facility that specializes in helping out young to late teen kids with Down syndrome or high levels of autism, which causes themselves to be antisocial. I hate not being able to work, so volunteering not only got myself out of my boring, doing nothing everyday schedule, but also gave me a positive when applying for work. Everyone likes someone who is always trying to better themselves. It is a great place with some great people who also volunteer, and the kids are imaginative and show love unconditionally. The local community was also amazing, donating items, clothes, food, and money to help keep the facility running. Just shy of 2 years later, after many people coming and going, Karen appears. At first, she has a nice smile and is accommodating. The kids seem to love her a lot, until the jealousy started. Karen didn't understand for the last 2 years I had been doing volunteering, even when doing part-time jobs I could find, so she assumed I was just recently new. So when the kids always came to me to give hugs and tell me what they did that day and show off their art, well, Karen didn't like this, and she was jealous of my popularity with everyone. This started a spate of things happening. I was a smoker at that time. Not anymore, have quit since 7 years ago. Best thing ever. So a rule was to make sure lighters, matches, and cigarettes were locked away in lockers at all times. This included medication, mobile phones, anything that could be a bad thing in the wrong hands. Although the kids would tell anyone that something that was sitting out in the open that shouldn't be there was there, and we would put them away. But this one day, Karen had gone to the manager/HR administrator to say that I had left my cigarettes out with my lighter, an electronic one, which was unique. I was busy that day, so I was apologetic, as I could have easily forgotten, as you are kept off your feet constantly. but in the back of my mind, I had a doubt that I'm sure I put them in my locker. Over 4 months, every 2 to 3 weeks, something else was left in the open, or a door to the cleaning closet was left open after I had used the equipment inside. Each time, Karen had went to the manager/HR to talk about this. Karen has kids of her own that left after they hit 18, so at the time, I'm putting it down to automatic motherly defensiveness for the kids. The following month, one of the girls, we'll call her Jo, not her real name, had burst into the room crying, and her nose was bleeding. All the volunteers, including myself, instantly went to check up on Jo. She is looking flustered. Looking at me and gave a big yell, she ran off to hide. When Jo was flustered or upset about something, she would always hide, but she always came to me first to say why or to hint at why. But this time she didn't. And then Karen burst in. "How could you do this to Jo?" Devil eyes peering at me. I am taken aback. "What? Who? What do you mean? What happened to Jo?" She replied, "I can't believe I just watched you 5 minutes ago sock her in the face." And she rushed off to the manager/HR. I'm standing there, unsure of what the heck is going on. Jo in the corner somewhere behind boxes, crying her eyes out. Some new volunteers are looking at me as if I'm bad, and the other kids looking perplexed because I've never done this at all before. Even with Down syndrome, they understand most of what is going on around them. Manager comes in quickly, looking angry, which is understandable hearing what Karen told her. Asked me why I did this. This shocked me hard because here's the manager who's known me for the last 2.5 years and instantly thought I could do something like that. I deny it, of course. I have been in the room for at least 25 minutes. The others couldn't corroborate, as we are always busy and we don't notice small things like who is in the room and for how long. The manager goes to Jo and asks her. She looks at me and instantly sobs her heart out again and says with a stammering, "Yes." This hit me harder than the manager instantly thinking I could do this. Jo has been like a little sister who would tell me everything and always came to me when in trouble. So police were called, everyone given information. Jo was too scared, still in her place of hiding, so I was effectively let go pending an investigation. Hardly anyone gets reinstated after any type of investigation, but Jo's parents were seemingly at a loss for words and didn't think I could do this, and after talking to Jo on their own, they dropped charges. But the damage was done, and I was asked to never come back. Later found out that Karen and her jealousy was telling other newer volunteer staff that I was always breaking rules and leaving dangerous stuff about. She had watched me at my locker, digital number keypad type, and saw my pin for the locker and left things about, including the lighter and cigarettes, all because the kids would always come to me. Fast forward to 2009, after lots of rejections from other places for volunteering, one place was run by an ex-volunteer who knew this was all BS and gave me a chance. She was great and understanding. We would help all types of people in the community to do events for charities, etc. I enjoyed it very much. One day, the boss came to me and said, "Oh, guess who is coming with kids today?" Karen. Since years back, Karen has moved up the ranks, so to speak, and had, through some rumors, forced the manager to quit. So wanted the ex-volunteer who ran this place to help the kids put on a play so she can show it off to a regional director who helps fund the facility I used to volunteer at. Oh boy, oh boy. Luckily, Karen never gets to see me. She talked to the person who runs the place I'm at now. Everything is arranged, and the kids would come twice a week for 5 months to work on and rehearse their play they would put on. Sort of real-life situations that they meet in their lives and how to overcome them. And of the eldest kids is Jo. She sees me and rushes over to me and hugs me, crying at the same time, saying, "Sorry, sorry, sorry," about what seemed like forever. I patted her head and said it's okay, because I know she was coerced into it. It fit the scenario. Jo told me everything she could about Karen. She had socked Jo, told her to blame me. She wouldn't. Then she got socked again, the same spot. This time with a threat to tell it was me, or she would never come back here and go to the bad place, which was a publicly funded place, which isn't really good. Light bulb moment. Real life situation and how to overcome them. I got in touch with Joe's parents, and they were so apologetic because Joe told them everything, and they tried to tell the manager/HR before, but she put it down to Joe isn't sure and just wanted me back. So I told them of the play, and if we could introduce Joe's experience with Karen as part of the play. They were hesitant at first, but after a couple of hours, I got a text on my phone. Yeah, go for it. Take that lying jerk down. So months go by. Joe knew not to tell anyone about the play. It was a secret. Then it was time for the big night. Room is packed. Other groups did their choirs, plays, artistic dances. It was a great night. I looked through the thick wine curtains at the stage to see Karen, looking all pleased with herself next to the director. Apparently, this was make or break for Karen. Please the director, get the manager position, which was a paid position and not volunteer. She was temporary manager and being paid, but this would solidify it. Then the kids came on. Each group did their own things. They were amazing and people were enjoying it. Some jokes here and there that we helped the kids remember. Then Joe was last, a solo performance. Joe stood on the stage and in her best voice, "My Time at the Facility" by Joe. I'm watching Karen through the curtain and she's looking perplexed, forcing a smile at the director who was loving it and was paying super attention to all the kids. Who wouldn't be if you are funding them? So I stepped to the side of the curtain, and then eventually Karen's eyes met my face, and I cheekily waved. And then her face became one of massive concern. Joe put on an amazing performance, and the piece de resistance was her solo part about Karen. In the dark, with a light shining on Joe for dramatic effect, she mimicked what happened to her that day. "That hurt me, Karen. Why did you do this to me? You did this to me, not OP." Then she covers her nose again. "No, Karen, don't do it again. I don't want to leave here. I will do it." She stands up straight from her crouched position and says, "Karen told me to lie and say OP did this, or I would go to the bad place." The director's face was unforgettable. He sat with his jaw literally hanging down and mouth agape. Karen was looking at me, at Joe, at the director back and forth, and you could see her trying to figure out something to save herself. I just walked backstage. Job done. Later I high-fived Joe and told her good job, you were amazing. She gave me the biggest, cheesiest grin with a thumbs up. Made me tear up. Karen blamed me for obviously making Joe say all these things, and police were called again. But my boss didn't take her side, of course, and allowed me to remain. For years, Karen would always serve me up some weird summons to court for one thing or another. I would go and she wouldn't, so I automatically win. One of the girls who was at the facility when I was there was Meg. Again, not real name. She was bullied by Karen to say stuff about me, but Meg would say no every single time. Meg's parents gave her a bear she called Barry the Bear. Barry was special. It had a camera. So she would have the bear, and if anything bad...
We are working on just getting some ISK up to work on the gas pump. The gas main is, I need 2 miners, which is about $3 million. back in. Let's go. Um, there's a few builds. I'm gonna build this destroyer. Pulling most of these ships somewhat in my means. This one's yes is going to bed.
That happens, she knew to press the bear's paw to start recording. But unfortunately, Meg lost her battle with MS March of last year, and they were going through her things, and the father found Barry the bear and remembered why they got it. They went through what was recorded. Now back then, things like this did exist, but were heavy and expensive, and without much storage. Well, Joe was playing with Barry the bear as Meg allowed her to play with him. They were good friends. Joe must have accidentally pushed the paw to start the recording, and on the recording you could hear Karen in the background, the threats, etc. So Meg's parents told me about this, and that started me down the legal route to finally get Karen for good. It resulted in going to court, and after a day, they found Karen guilty. She was banned and fined $50,000 and was to pay damages to me, Joe, and Meg's parents. Unfortunately, the stigma I received back then never did go away, and I can't still go back to the facility to volunteer even after the truth. But that is okay. I'm currently going to start another new job and will volunteer at weekends. But I know that Karen and her ambitious jealousy is now having the worst time ever. Everyone in the community knows what she did, and she has become a bit of a recluse and hardly ventures anywhere. Next we've got, I made the mistake of wearing a bright red hoodie to Target. This happened to me over the weekend, so the dialogue is just the gist of what happened. I don't have as good of a play-by-play memory as some people. I had stopped by Target to grab some snacks on my way home to watch the NFL playoff games. I was on my phone trying to find out what kind of chips and stuff people would want when I got approached by a lady asking what section buns were in. She asked nicely, said, "Excuse me," and all that, so I gladly helped her. Didn't cross my mind that she might have come up to me because she thought I worked there. After she left, I went back to my phone, kinda aimlessly looking between chips on the shelf, and read it while I waited for someone to message back. That's when I realized my error in clothing choices. Another lady in the aisle, this one with her kid and less courteous, had walked up closer to me while I was helping the other. After I went back to my phone, she started to clear her throat while standing uncomfortably close. I thought maybe I was in her way, so I just sort of sidestepped and went about my day. Mind you, I'm holding a red basket this entire time. This apparently was the most disrespectful thing this woman had ever seen because it sent her off the rails. Karen, who do you think you are ignoring me? Me, excuse me? Karen, I've been waiting patiently for you to help me, and you're just on your phone texting on the clock. Then you're just gonna decide to help some random who walks up to you before me? I'm taking this to your manager. She then proceeded to snatch the phone from my hand, throw it in her purse, and start to walk off, all while dragging her kid behind her, who's doing his best to make himself invisible. I ran in front, stretched my arm out, and demanded she give me back my phone. I told her I don't work here, and if she doesn't, I'll be happy to go find a manager for her. Karen, I'll give it back to you after you get a manager. This is unacceptable. Nee, ma'am, I seriously do not work here. Please give me my phone. Karen, manager first. Me, fine, forget it. Follow me. We then proceeded to walk to the front, all while she was giving her kid a lecture about how important it is for him to always be respectful to others. My eyes still hurt from how hard I rolled them. Soon as we got to the front help desk, I asked them where a manager was. They pointed out a guy in a button-up shirt I'll call Bob. Me, excuse me, sir. This woman has stolen my phone and refuses to return it. Do you know who I can talk to about theft? Bob, I'm sorry. What? Karen, this employee is lying. I caught him slacking off on his phone and refusing to help me. She then proceeded to go on and on about never being able to find anything and how no one here is helpful while she handed my phone to Bob. Bob, sir, is this your phone? Me, yes. She snatched it out of my hands, put it in her purse, and walked away. Who can I talk to about theft? Bob, I can have someone escort her out. But we have a courtesy officer in the store if you would like me to find him. Me, that's fine. Kicking her out would be enough. Karen, escort me out? For what? He wasn't doing his job. Bob, Ma'am, this man does not work here. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You took a customer's personal belongings. She began to make even more of a scene, alternating between trying to apologize to me, yelling insults at the manager motioning her toward the door, and yelling about how they can't kick her out and that she had a right to be here. I felt bad for her kid, but I really wasn't in the mood to have my phone stolen. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day. It's Olivia, Moonbeam Butler, and Zifty Panda. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many rees as you can in the comments below. And please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep. Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen and her brads think our pool is a community pool. After that, I got fired and went after the boss's money, hotel, and his marriage. And after that, your car was towed, and now I'm kicking you out. Now I just got off the phone with Karen, and she told me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try using anyone else's pool for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And huge shout out to our newest official members of the Re-Army, Rose Client and Liz Freeman. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as an official channel member today, and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. Karen and her brads think our pool is a community pool. I used to read stories on here and think that people can't really be like that. Man, was I wrong. The cast. We've got Kane, my son. We've got Pablo and Olivia, BFF and girlfriend. We've got Jake, husband. And we've got me. We've got Christy, entitled jerk-face mom. We've got entitled disappointing dad. We've got Kyle, entitled little jerk. He's like 11. We've got Lucy, the kid's kind grandma, and our hero. We've got police 1, 2, and 3, and we've got the previous owner. He's not here, but he gets a phone call. It was July. We finally decided to buy a home. So we moved in right before July 4th. We were so excited because our new home has a pool, so we decided to have a pool party. It was early, around 11:30 to 11:40ish. We were still sleeping as we had a long evening the night before. Jake works for the federal government, working with veterans, and he, as well as myself, are both combat veterans. We live in a little town in Arizona that's a very well-known destination for people in summer because of the boating community. We loved the area we moved to because it wasn't far from where we lived prior, just about 2 miles from it. My son Kane had his buddy Pablo over to stay the night out in the casita, and Olivia, his girlfriend, they're all 18. Don't want to hear the OMG you let her stay over for the night. Jake, Kane, Pablo, and Olivia go to the store for last-minute stuff, ice, extra charcoal, etc. Our house is set up, so the pool is in the back. We have a shed to the left, and the casita is to the right as you're facing out of the house. We have a gate on the side. You can see through a small window in our kitchen, the garage door, and another driveway gate. I have a huge bay window in my kitchen that you can see the pool backyard, etc. Well, I hear the gate open on the side by me. I figure it's our pool guy, who we had come check the pool before the party, thinking he forgot something in the yard. I hear it open 2 more times, so I open the blinds, and I see Kyle, entitled Dad, Christy, and Lucy in my backyard, setting up our chair patio furniture and chairs out of how I have them set. Confused, I think maybe they are Jake's coworkers. They occasionally have new work studies I haven't met. So I open the slider and tell them the party isn't until 14:30. It's 12:15. They look at me confused, and this is when the craziness begins. Me. I'm sorry guys, the party doesn't start until 14:30. But, I guess, you guys are more than welcome to hang out. Entitled Dad. Where's previous owner? And who are you? Are you renting previous owner's house for the holiday? With that snarky undertone. I know previous owner, and he said we can use the pool whenever we're here. Me. Previous owner sold the house to us. I'm sorry, but we are having a party for friends and family. You guys are more than welcome to come over tomorrow, and maybe after we get to know you. He cuts me off. I'm thinking, okay, I guess they're just going to say thanks, sorry, and leave like normal people. Oh, was I wrong. Entitled Dad. Airbnb doesn't mean you own the home. Rolls his eyes. Go back inside. We're good. Me. No. You need to go ahead and get the heck out of my yard. I'm going to call the locals if you don't. Christy. No. You need to do as he says, or we will call the cops and tell them you are trespassing. I'm upset now. I'm a nice person, but I'm a jerk when I'm tired and dealing with idiots. Me. Look, you need to get your... Not a chance. Kane, Pablo, and Olivia come out back about this time, and Mama Bear tells them to go back into the garage almost at a yell. They do. Me. Look, I've had enough of this crap. I tried to be nice. Husband was nice. Just leave. Entitled Dad. Don't yell in front of my kid. I'm calling the police. You can do that from your car. Leave, please. Entitled Dad sits in a lounger and calls the police. He tells them his spiel about how the Airbnb renters are rude and won't let them swim, yada yada. Mind you, Jake showed this idiot his driver's license. I see Entitled Dad and get redder and redder. Entitled Dad. Well, why didn't you say something to us, huh? And that's stupid. We should still be able to swim. I'm remembering the conversation. Sorry, it may not be 100%, but it went something to that effect. Entitled Dad hangs up, smashing his finger on the end button. Yeah, now leave, I'm thinking. I don't care if previous owner sold you his house. We are swimming. He said we could use his pool whenever. Kyle jumps in my pool, and Christy goes in. I'm thinking to get Kyle. Nope, they proceed to play in my pool. I lost my crap. I'm yelling at Jake to call the police. My phone is in my bedroom, on the other side of our home. Jake, please get your wife and kid out of our pool and leave. We're not leaving. Lucy, Entitled Dad, you're going to go back to prison. Let's go, please. I won't, Mom. I'm not doing anything wrong. We were given permission to swim. Me, you are trespassing. Get the heck out of my darn yard now. Christy, no, sorry, we're swimming. I proceed to go towards the pool to pull her out by her hair. Doozer had snuck out by my leg as well, so I'm trying to grab him. Kyle. Mom, she told the dog to bite me. I heard her. Get the dog. Doozer is trying to lick him in play. He practically punches my puppers away. I lost my crap, y'all. Me. Kyle, I'm going to use a wooden spoon on you like your mom and dad should. Kyle screaming at this point. Christy still in my pool. Don't threaten my bubble. I'll mess you up, jerk. Bring it, lady. Get the heck out of my pool and my property now. About this time, we all hear one local PD. Knock, knock, loud. Me. Out back. Entitled Dad rushes Jake out of nowhere and proceeds to try to sock him. Still to this day, no one knows why, but Jake just kind of steps and just clotheslines him. It was hilarious. About this time, I'm thinking, oh God, I gotta get bail money. We're going to jail. Popo comes hauling butt through the garage and side gate. Kane had to unlock it since we have 2 side gates, and of course, he went to the locked one. Pulls Jake to the side and picks up Entitled Dad and starts to read Jake his rights and was going to cuff him as the other officer saw what had happened. Half of it, anyhow. Arizona is a right to stand your ground, right to defend state. They didn't know who was who. Christy, still in my pool. Arrest him. He hit Entitled Dad, threatened Lucy, and she cursed at my side and said she was going to use a spoon on him. Me, being pulled back by police officer 2. Officer 2. Ma'am, calm down before I have to cuff you. To me. Officer 3. Who's the homeowner? Kane. My parents, Jake and OP. Those people are trespassing. Officer 3. What is going on? And everyone needs to calm down or everybody is going to jail tonight. Me. These idiots are trespassing. Officer 3. Ma'am, calm down. Me. These people thought we were trespassing. I tell Officer 3 the whole ordeal. Officers 1, 2, and 3 go over and talk for a minute, telling me and mine to go in the house, so we do. Officer 2. I need all IDs. Me. Okay, but it's our home, and we called. Officer 2. Ma'am, I understand. We need to make sure everyone is okay and who they say they are. I know the true reason is they are making sure all of us are who we say we are, as in no warrants and are dangerous. Safety reasons, I totally get it. All IDs are collected. PD 2 and 3 stay with us, while PD 1 goes inside and calls all in. Like I said, we live in a small town that's quiet most times of the year, but busy on holidays, so it takes a few minutes. Officer 1 comes back and tells Officers 2, 3, me and Jake are fine. We're the owners, etc. Officer 1. Christy and Kyle, get out of the pool and gather your things, please, and go out front. Christy. Why? We didn't do anything wrong. In that sickening, whining tone, woe is me. Officer 1. Ma'am, you are trespassing. I forgot to tell y'all, we have a Ring doorbell system and cameras. Me. Officer 2. By the way, I have video of all of this on my phone if you need it. Very important later. Officer 2. We may need it right now. We are trespassing them and letting the others go. And entitled Dad? Maybe we're checking on some stuff. That is termed for he has a record, and we're checking to see if he violated anything. Entitled Dad has been in prison for something small in California. I can't remember what exactly. Anyhow, they trespassed Entitled Dad, Christy, and it was all thanks to Lucy telling Officer 1 the whole thing. Yup, Lucy, the sweet grandma, ratted them out. They leave, and you would think all was good. Nope. Entitled Dad tried suing us for damage and injuries to his neck when Jake clotheslined him. What? Emotional damage? And scaring his kid? Bubble? We weren't worried. We had video footage of the whole ordeal. The arbitrator took one look and told Entitled Dad it wasn't going to go well. Dude still tried. Judge threw it out and told him he's lucky Jake didn't knock him out. No, I'm not sharing the video. Maybe in a few years, and blurred faces, and identifying tats of Entitled Dad and Christie's blurred. Sorry so long, Redditors. I was cleaning out the cloud on my phone and found the video. Thought I'd share, it's funny in retrospect now, but man, I wanted to go crazy on those people. If it's a crappy story, I'm sorry. Next we've got, I got fired and went after the boss's money, hotel, and his marriage. Back when I still was in university, I used to work for a hotel to make ends meet. When I started, the hotel very urgently needed new personnel, so I cut a deal with the old owner about getting to choose and pick shifts, so I could visit my courses and exams. Speaking some extra foreign languages, I also got a little bonus each month on top. The old owner was a great guy. He owned multiple hotels, so I rarely saw him. But when he was in the house, he always made a point to have drinks with the staff, chat with us, and if we were free, he even invited those of the front desk to fancy restaurants who were not on shift. Fast forward, I had worked in the hotel for a few years now and was nearing the completion of my studies, so it wouldn't have been an eternity until I had to quit anyway, as I was, of course, more interested to work in my field of study. As part of my deal with the old owner, I mostly chose to work night shifts, allowing me to visit my courses at university during the day. To make up for my privilege, I had picked up the habit of doing some extra work in the dead of night other shifts normally wouldn't have to do. When I, on contrast, could have sat around and stared at the walls. People were grateful for the help in the beginning, and we became a rather tight-knit group. But over time, people rotated in and out. When the old owner retired, and his jerk of a son took over the business as the new owner, I already feared the worst. The new owner didn't like me very much. I never found out the exact reason for that one. I was at that point nearly the sole veteran left from what I started. Among the tasks I had taken on was doing light clerical tasks to ease the manager's job in the morning. For that, I generally had to use the manager's network account. One night while doing my lists, I logged into the manager's account and emailed to do my job. Then I saw an email with my name in the subject line. I know it is not nice to snoop, but of course, I read it. Turns out the new owner wanted to get rid of me. I still had my old employee contract with the bonuses for foreign language abilities and was allowed by my contract to pick and choose shifts. I can only assume these privileges are what made the new owner hate me. No idea if he had other reasons, because to be honest, these seem very weak to me. But he couldn't fire me without cause. On top of that, I would be owed severance if fired, and generally, there were not enough bodies in the shift rotation without me. Though the new owner didn't seem to understand that point as the emails told me. I looked for more emails concerning me and found them. There was an email chain between some of the employees, the manager, and the new owner. I was, of course, not CC'd, as I was the hated topic. The employees didn't like me hogging the night shifts, because those paid better, and for every night you worked, you got paid the night bonus. The manager was the only one rather neutral on the matter and just curbed their enthusiasm to get rid of me, as they needed me to be fully staffed. The new owner and my colleagues actively conspired to make a hostile work environment so I would quit of my own volition. I was furious. I thought about a variety of actions, like egging their cars or messing up the hotel. But I settled on a less crazy method of revenge. I called my uncle at 2 a.m. asking for advice. My uncle is a lawyer, so for sake of proof, I forwarded myself all the emails. I made photos, printed them out, made copies, and filmed the whole deal just to be sure. My uncle told me to sit tight and see if things got worse, or if it was just bluster. And so I gave it a few days, and things did take a turn. Snide remarks about my looks, clothing, and so on were only the tip of the iceberg. Some of the colleagues were just as professional as before, but the conspirators always left extra work for me or pawned off crap duties they normally had to do to me. I always kept a spare shirt and suit at work, just to have a change, which suddenly disappeared. One guy even threatened me. I would not give them the satisfaction of saving on the severance or giving in. I am a big boy after all. I did, however, stop doing any extra work I was not obligated to do, which in the end was the reason they used to fire me. They still had to pay me severance. The next day, my uncle, with bundled proof of the email and all documented harassment by my colleagues, served the hotel my lawsuit. It started with wrongful termination and ended with harassment. Reportedly, the manager went white as a sheet when he realized where the emails must have come from. The new owner had been on vacation and had to cancel his expensive vacation in France to deal with this. Their counsel advised them to settle, so I accepted my severance and a hefty bonus on top. Enough money to last me until the end of university without work. But that was not all my revenge. I had gone after the new owner's money, but in the next step, I went after the hotel. I had used all the spare time during night shifts alone to document every last violation of city, council, district, state, and federal law I could find. That went from little things like some harmless mold under the kitchen sink to substantial violations like modifications of the building. The building was under a limited form of historical protection by federal law, on the ground of being built and inhabited by somewhat important historical figures a few hundred years back. So every renovation or change in floor plans needs to be signed off on by a committee, which can take ages. There is also a grant paid to the new owner by the government for keeping the building intact as is. So with my uncle's help, I sent documentation of every violation I could find to the corresponding agency. In 1 month, everything from health, building code, fire safety, to the finance and work police crawled over the hotel. In the end, it was the building and fire inspectors that shut the place down. The new owner had done substantial renovations to the top floor luxury apartments, which he used when he was in town. So he had to pay back the rent and pay fines for unauthorized alterations to the building, endangering his guests because something wasn't built right according to fire code, and had to close down shop until the building was fixed. I also tipped off a friend who had studied journalism and worked at a local paper. The paper ran an article on all the violations accumulated, which tanked the business once it had reopened, as the newspaper article had led to horrible reviews. In the end, to afford all the fines, repayments, and building costs, the new owners sold the hotel. As the cherry on top, all the jerks who had tried to harass me lost their jobs. Granted, the people who didn't do anything to me lost their jobs too, but didn't do anything to stand up for me or help either, so I don't feel too much remorse. And the revenge cherry on top was that the new owner, whenever he was in town, used to bring girls to the hotel, which in my country is legal, but he was married. It took some doing to get that information to the new owner's wife, but one of my former colleagues, who had quit before this had all happened, had I don't know what exactly happened, but they did divorce in the end. Make of that what you will. Next we've got, your car was towed, and now I'm kicking you out. To set the stage, I work for a shop with a much larger shopping district. Think of your basic strip mall, but in a heavy traffic Florida area. So a ton of people, many of which don't live here, and a heavy security force to keep an eye on them. We don't employ the security directly, but as one of the store tenants, they can answer to us if there is an emergency. Our block of shops has a loading bay behind it, which I personally rarely use for anything other than clocking in and out. Occasionally, people try to park here, despite the fact that there is signage specifically telling them not to do so. Our lots are often packed, and they think they can get away with it. I never complain, but the security will tow them in a heartbeat if they see it. The local tow company probably makes a lot from it, which is where this story starts. I'm exiting for the night, and a guy sees me walking out of one of our back doors. We'll call him Entitled Local. Hey, where the heck is my car? Me. If you can't find your car, security can check the lot for you. No, I parked it here, man. Where the heck is it? If you parked it here, security might have towed it. You towed my car? No, but security might have. Don't pull that crap. I know you work here. I want to talk to a manager. I'm the manager on duty at my store, but I do not work for the district. If you want, I can... I've been coming here for years, and they've never touched my car. This is unacceptable. I expect you to have it returned immediately. I can't untow your car, man. At this point, he became more and more angry, yelling and insulting me, escalating it to the point of threatening to beat me up. As luck would have it, a guard was walking through our lot, so I waved him down. Entitled Local begins to smile, thinking he's finally escalated the problem to somebody else who can return his vehicle. Nope. Security guard. How's it going? Me. Hey, this is the guy who you towed earlier. He's threatening me because of it. I want him trespassed off property. Fun fact, the strip is all under a single address, with the individual shops being like apartment numbers. So if you get trespassed off from any individual shop, that means you aren't permitted on the property at all. End of the day, idiot is taken off property by a handful of security guards as he yells and spits. Not only did we do nothing about his car being towed, he was permanently banned from returning. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day: Lulu Plays, Ridaclin, Jelly the Kitty, Sheena, and Olivia. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many Rees as you can in the comments below. And watch this video next. You will love it. Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Be a horrible coworker and take from the company? I'll end your career. And after that, the day my homeowners association crumbled. Now Karen promised me if we get 1,000 likes on this video, she won't be a horrible coworker for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And by the way, become an official channel member today and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. Be a horrible coworker and take from the company? I'll end your career. Straight out of college, with a degree in graphic design, hungry to find a good job in a horrible economy, 2009, I applied all over the place. I ended up settling for a decently paid internship instead with really good company, a beer distributor for a large and legendary macro brewery. I was pretty ecstatic. Even if this was a part-time internship, it had great potential to turn into a full-time job. I was hired in to be a graphic designer for their in-house print shop, and I would be working with one other person. This girl, Alice, name changed for anonymity. My first day working, I met Alice, and she seemed really nice, knowledgeable, and passionate about graphic design. Due to seniority, she was technically my supervisor. After a few days working, I learned a few things about her. Obsessed with running, obsessed with horses. She was a horse girl, homeschooled her whole life, and overall realized she was just an awkward person. Nothing wrong with that. Some people are awkward. It's okay. But all day, every day, I would hear about running, and she was obsessed with competing with her sister. It's all she talked about. Her obsessions were just draining to hear about some days, but the obsessions come back later in the story. Anyway, I dealt with the awkwardness for a while. I just learned of ways to ignore it. After a couple years is when the real trouble started. By this time, I became a full-time employee, not an intern anymore. We were pretty much equals when it came to rank in the office. Only thing she did more than I did was ordering. She would order ink cartridges for our printers, paper, print heads, etc. That's all she did more than me. She still delegated work, but I didn't mind. At a certain point, I was put in charge of reorganizing our office and helped move everything around with my boss. The catch was that I got to pick where I sat, got to choose my desk and location if I helped move. Alice knew this, didn't care, and said she was too busy to help with the reorganization. I was happy to help. The way our office was organized after the change was she sat in front of me with her back facing me, and I would be all the way in the back of the office by the printers. So basically, I could see everything she was doing on her computer, if I wanted to or cared to. But we always got our work done, browsed the web for personal reasons occasionally throughout the day. It wasn't abused by either of us, so no big deal. Like I said, she was my superior, so she would designate jobs. We would get job requests from the salesman, and they would differ in difficulty and time to complete them. Everything was equal. We would bust our butts and have an equal amount of work always, until I went on vacation for a week. I'd go on vacation for that week and come back into the office to see her sitting in my desk. I'm immediately confused. I then notice her computer, picture frames, desk organizer. All her crap is now moved from her desk to mine, and all my stuff is moved to where she was sitting and was thrown everywhere. This jerk literally went through all my stuff, unplugged my computer and everything I had, and switched desks with me while I was on vacation. No text or call, email, or notice about it or why she did it. I look at her and say, what happened to my desk? Alice. Oh, so while you were gone, the printers kept jamming up, and I had to get to them quicker, so I just switched desks with you since your desk is closer. Me. Okay, I don't understand. It's only like a 5-foot difference between your desk and mine. Alice. Yeah, I know, but they were jamming up, and every time they would do that, it would take too long to boot back up and restart everything. Me, in my head. Total BS. Yeah, okay. I don't get it, but whatever. I didn't get it. It was really weird, and I was pretty upset. All my stuff was moved and our desks were switched. Not only that, but IT had to get involved to switch our phone numbers to our desk. That took a few days, so I kept getting all her calls and she got mine. It was ridiculous. I didn't care after a few minutes when I saw the pile of work to do for the day. There were jobs backed up, and the whole sales team was asking where their job orders were. Alice kept saying, "Oh, it was so busy last week with just me here. Couldn't get it done." So we had to bust our butts and play catch up for a few days. One key part of all this is that we have a printing program that files and filters all the print jobs we send. It has date, time, file name, number of copies, time it took to print, etc. I was curious, so I go back one week to see what she did while I was gone. Absolutely nothing. A couple of the days I was gone, there were only a few files sent to print, and they were projects that would have taken at most 15 minutes apiece to do. Even if the printers were jamming, there is absolutely no way she could have done that little without slacking off the entire time. You can always work on projects or send them to the printer queue to send later. As weeks started to pass after she moved the desks, I noticed productivity started to go way down. Even worse, I started to get a ton of projects sent to me, twice as many as usual. I was at the point there would be days I would stay 2 hours late just to finish things up. Not only that, but Alice worked out a deal with our boss where she could start coming in 1 hour earlier before anyone else is in the office and leave an hour earlier at the end of the day because she had CrossFit and boot camp for running and needed to train for a marathon. That's fine, except she wasn't doing her job. The printing software we used to track everything was showing she actually wasn't doing jack. I don't get how clueless she could be to think she would get away with this either. We can both see every job that is sent, or not sent in this matter, to the printer, showing for every 10 jobs I would send to her 1. Ah, now I know why she moved the desks, so she could be where I was without anyone looking at her screen. I also noticed every time I would get up to go by her to grab something from the printers, she would grab her mouse really fast and click away from whatever website she was on, wasting time instead of doing work. I would also check to see what she did during that hour she would come into work early while no one was here. Nothing. I would look to see what she did during the hour I was gone for lunch. Nothing. So here I am, coming in on time, busting my butt, doing a ton of work, staying late while she would waste an hour in the morning, waste an hour during my lunch, and not even do the bare minimum while there. I had enough. Up until then, I had to put up with her awkwardness, and that's whatever, but I was no longer going to put up with her laziness and poor work ethic. I knew she was going on a long weekend trip in a couple weeks to run a marathon. I started taking screenshots of the print jobs on our system's queue every day at the end of the day, showing what I did and she didn't do. Shows how she slacked off and gave me all the work to do and didn't do anything. It was more than enough proof to show she was abusing company time severely. The Thursday she was gone, I gave her a taste of her own medicine. I moved our desks back. I moved everything from my desk back to my old desk she stole from me, and all her crap nicely put back on her desk. I kept everything nice and organized, as if nothing was changed besides the location of the desks themselves. Even further, I went and located extra long telephone cords so I didn't have to bother IT to switch our phones back again. I held on to the screenshots I took of her slacking off and didn't show them to my boss. I wasn't going to unless she raised heck about me moving our desks, which why would she? It was my desk originally. The printers obviously were not jamming, ever. It was a total BS excuse, and I never got mad at her or made a big deal when she did it. So why would she get mad at me for doing the same thing? I didn't even care about the desk itself. I cared that she was slacking off and not doing her job where she was in a spot no one could keep track of what she was doing. She was supposed to be my superior, someone who can manage and delegate work. Instead, she took advantage of me and the company. I didn't want any huge surprises, so at the end of the work week, I sent her a text. Hi Alice, just wanted to let you know I ended up moving our desks back to their original location. Figured it wasn't a big deal, but I just wanted my original desk back that I claimed after I was given the option for helping organize everything. Just didn't want you to be surprised on Monday. Have a good weekend. I gave her more of a courtesy than when she did that, so I figured it wouldn't be an issue. There was. I didn't get a response or anything, so I walk in Monday morning after she got back from her long weekend, and I just say hi, walk past her, and go to my reclaimed desk. Me. Not sure if you got my text, but I let you know I moved the desk back to their original spots. Figured the original issue of the printers jamming up was fixed, so I just wanted my original desk back. Alice turns around to look at me, clearly mad. Yeah, I got your text. By the way, we're going to have a nice long talk with Jim, our boss, name changed for anonymity, about this. Me. Okay, what's the issue? I just wanted my desk back. You moved them without even telling me before, and there wasn't an issue. So why are you mad? We'll just go talk to Jim about all this. Sounds good. Let's go. Alice turns back to her computer, then turns back at me again. Why do you have to be so ornery? Me. Ornery? Alice. Yes, ornery. You mean ornery? And if you did intend to call me ornery, I'm not at all. I just moved our desks back. Exactly what you did before. She just turned back around and we were called into my boss's office. He clearly didn't give a crap and was just fed up with Alice's BS since this wasn't the first time she brought up a total non-issue to him before. She complained constantly, would bring up nonsense about the office all the time about things that just didn't matter one bit. This was another one. She goes on explaining how I just want to cause issues for no reason. Then Jim asks me, well, why did you move the desks anyway? That's when I whipped out the stack of screenshots showing her lack of work and how I was being overworked and doing the work of two people. He looks over everything and was pretty upset and frustrated. Questioned why this was going on and why the work wasn't delegated properly. He also mentioned he would notice how I would be here late all the time. She had no answers. Alice made up excuses how she was busy placing orders for supplies and doing other projects that were not all printed work that couldn't be tracked. He wasn't having any of it and just said to keep the desk the way they are now and not change anything again. So I got my desk back. Funny enough, now that I could see everything she was doing, all the open jobs were delegated properly. Weird. All the workload was split evenly. Shocker. And all the BS from before stopped. After this fiasco, there were issues upon issues between us. There was a rivalry, and we got along enough to just get the work done, and that's it. I could care less about her. She would be nasty to me all the time and just say mean comments. Whatever, I could care less. I wanted nothing to do with her. I knew she had poor work ethic and did what she had to do to keep her job by just the bare minimum to make it seem like she was working. Now remember when I said I worked for a beer distributor? Pretty sweet gig. We got to try a lot of new products we would distribute before they came out, even during work, to a point. Just be responsible doing it. One day, we have a new one outside in the warehouse, and we're able to drink it in the morning. I had a couple, and Alice kept going back for more. I was around her enough times where I could tell she was having too much. When this happened, she would be forgetful and slack off. Another shocker. When lunchtime came around, she barely did anything that day. I went to lunch and came back after an hour. I noticed she was gone already and had gone to lunch before I got back. Looked like she just got up and left. Computer was still logged in, crap all over her desk, half beer sitting there, and probably just didn't care since she was in that lazy state of drinking. I walk up to our normal printer to grab a couple emails I printed out. Not on the expensive HP printers we print banners on, just our normal printers. I notice a couple pieces of paper sitting there under what I had just printed out. I look to see what it is, and it's an invoice from eBay. I didn't think much of it, but I did a double look after noticing one of the pictures is of the ink cartridges we use on our big 36-inch HP printers. These are typically $150 to $200 a toner cartridge, depending on the color, and there were 10 total for each printer when being used. No way, I thought to myself. Is she selling these on eBay and pocketing the money? I look up the seller name on eBay, which was something like Runner's World 347 or something related to running. Red flag. Turns out she has been stealing ink cartridges and selling them online off and on for over 3 years. On one transaction, she made over $1,000 right before Christmas, probably to buy Christmas presents or something. Another was before her marathon she did earlier in my story, probably to pay for that and her trip to go running. There were transactions for running shoes she purchased on there that I have never seen her wear in the office on casual Fridays before. Something horse-related, but forgot exactly what it was. It was hard evident she was stealing products from the company and selling them on eBay. Since she did the ordering and inventory of all the printing supplies, she could take advantage of it pretty easily, and she did. How stupid can you be to leave that kind of evidence sitting on a printer? Pro tip: don't get tipsy and print off invoices of stolen property you're selling on eBay and forget about it. I brought up all this information to my boss and showed him exactly what she was doing. He couldn't believe it, and to be honest, I couldn't either. Being a crappy coworker and employee is one thing, but stealing and selling thousands of dollars worth of company property? Really messed up. Jim ended up giving Alice the chance to come clean. He first called me into the office to let me know he will be talking to her and giving her the option to come clean about everything before showing her the evidence against her. I walked back to my desk, and all I remember her asking me is, what's going on? Is everything okay? After she noticed I was called in to talk to Jim. I just shook my head and said, yeah, I don't know. And a second later, she was called into his office. About 5 minutes pass, and I see Alice walk back into the sign shop crying with tears running down her face. Doesn't say anything to me as I watch her start to pack up her belongings in a box. That's when I knew she just got fired. Halfway through packing up, Jim comes by and says, "Are you done yet?" She replies no and starts going on her computer while Jim promptly stops her and says, "No, don't go on your computer. Those privileges are revoked and you cannot be on our computers or network anymore. It's a liability." He allows her to get a couple personal files as he watches her like a hawk. She picks up her box of stuff and is escorted out of the building. Last I ever saw of her. Best part of all this, it was done in front of all the sales team and managers, about 20 of them. They all watched this happen and all watched her be escorted out of the building. About 10 minutes of people asking me what happened, I realized 99% of people there absolutely hated her for related reasons revolving around her poor work ethic, nasty attitude, and awkwardness towards everyone. I got a couple slow claps and handshakes too. I was called back into Jim's office a little while later. He explained they confronted her about the theft, gave her the option to confess to everything, and they wouldn't press charges and allow her to resign. She confessed immediately. I ended up getting a raise right then and there and was promoted to sign shop manager and was put in place of finding a new team member to interview and hire in, and was able to work closely to HR and hiring department to find the right person. Long story short, after that, I stayed for another few months and got a great opportunity at a new job. But I was able to hire in a really good employee that was a quick learner and got her set up to be efficient and get things done. It was almost like a "I must go now, my job is done, someone else needs me" moment when I left. Turns out, she was just a toxic employee to most people well before I started there, but was once untouchable because of her relationship with the manager there. Never knew this, but once they weren't a thing anymore, there was no protection. Next we've got the day my homeowners association crumbled. This happened a few years back. Our homeowners association has always been known to be sneaky and to flat out give false accusations on homeowners, especially in this day with security cameras, and we can pretty easily spot out who the investigators are. Most recently, a homeowner was told she was supposed to get approval before she started re-shingling her roof. The thing is, her roof hasn't been re-shingled in 10 years and she had no plans to do it. Things like that. Call it just a mistake, call it malicious. Well, a few years ago, we had our time to shine. It was a simple morning. I was still temporarily living with my father at the time. Well, one morning we decided to go out to get groceries when we found that his pickup truck had been smashed into. Nothing was taken, it was just smashed into. In fact, I still have pictures from that day. Cops arrive, they do some investigating, and found that a rock inside the truck was from a house down the street. Unfortunately, they couldn't get them to admit to the crime, nor could they prove it was even them. Understandable, criminals will grab things that they find, but it was suspicious. The rock, I should say, was a special kind of rock that no one else in the neighborhood had. Some round polish type, very unique. After this incident, I installed a security camera on his house. Well, not 2 days later, we got an HOA violation for a vehicle eyesore that needs to be removed. Just 2 days later. I'm confused how such a letter could have been written up so fast, but I start to suspect foul play. One day we were home and had a knock at the door. The HOA actually called a code inspection officer. The week hadn't even been over yet, so the parts to fix the truck weren't delivered yet. We weren't paying expedited shipping for damages we didn't cause, and the truck was so old, insurance would probably just total it. The truck is sentimental to him, so he wasn't going to get rid of it. It still ran great. Code inspection tells my father that vehicles which do not run need to be moved. They both stop talking and take a second, and both almost say at the same time, "Don't I know you?" Turns out the code inspection officer went to the same church as my father, and they knew each other. The officer tells my father if he can show the truck starts, he's going to write it up as being in code. My father starts the truck just fine as the engine isn't damaged. He tells him to go on with his day and to have a good one. At this point, we are furious because we are starting to suspect the HOA may have done this, as there's no way they could have possibly known so fast. Unfortunately, our turn of the street had no neighbors with security cameras until I installed one on our house, so it caught nothing specific to our incident. Down the street, these people supposedly broke into a car as well, but the camera on their house was unable to see anything. Dang. Here's where the fun begins. Fast forward a couple months after nothing happened. I decided to install a new dash cam in my car. I found a good one that uses very little power of the battery and can activate if there's any bumps to the car, even if the car is off. It just needs to be wired straight to the battery for this. It's a thinkware. A few days later, we get a violation notice for our mailbox being crooked. It wasn't crooked much, but I do remember it recently having an angle. Odd. I could just fix it. But my car was aiming straight at the mailbox. I'm thinking, no, this couldn't be possible. It only records if there's a bump. I take out the memory card, and apparently I either didn't configure it correctly, but it was recording the whole time. It never went into sleep mode. I watched as the investigator walks up to the mailbox, and pushes it crooked, then writes down on his tablet his findings and takes a picture for records. I'm appalled at what I see. I have the proof I need. Now for the revenge. They wanted us to come to the board meeting and present what is going on at our address. We haven't told them yet that we had the pictures, but to summarize real fast how our homeowners association works, the board hires an outside company to do the grunt work. Let's call it Bentry Management. We go to the meeting and sit down. Bentry Management has the one in control of our account, and I swear to you, she looked like a Karen, so the name fits for her. As time goes by in the meeting, we get to discuss what is happening at our house. We present the timelines and tell them about the truck being smashed, and just 2 days later, we get a letter. We ask what dates the investigator was out for that time. Karen refuses to answer it. She argues ignorantly that we should keep better care of our stuff, as if it was our fault. Then comes the mailbox incident. We tell her that we have reasons to believe that the investigator is the one that is causing damages to our property and is harassing us. Karen denies this and says that is impossible, as she knows him personally. Oh, is that so? I ask. She says, yes. Why? I then pull out my laptop out of my book bag that I had been hiding, open it up to the video file already loaded, and show it to the entire board. Enter Exhibit A, I said out loud and played the video. Karen's face is bright red. She says that is not her investigator. I then also pulled out the letter about the mailbox, which was complete with date. It matches the timestamp on the video. She still tries to claim it's not them. No, it's a coincidence. I'm sorry, but you have a vandal and it's not us. It's not? I let the video play, knowing she's falling into a pit hard right now. As the man walks towards my car, you can plain as day see Bentry Management on his shirt. She's no longer red now. She's white as a ghost. The board looks over at her and asks what she has to say about this. Karen is silent and has nothing except a few noises, which I assume was her brain trying to comprehend what just happened. I then proceed to take up a previous case which I happened to remember before we left for the meeting, where we had a grass violation beside our house. Now this area they were claiming was actually not visible from the sidewalk due to the house shape. I asked point blank, has at any time your investigators walked on our property, illegally trespassing? Knowing as per their rules, they aren't allowed to do that. Karen is visibly shaking now and mutters out, no, of course not, with her head down, unable to maintain eye contact with me. She probably feels that I have more evidence, but unfortunately I didn't. So I ask again. She asks, why? Our neighbor, whom are actually lawyers, literally next door to us where the side of this wall was, stands up and says, actually, that's not true. I have witnessed one of your investigators go between our houses and poke around the trash bins. Bingo. I didn't even realize she had this information. I couldn't have asked for more better timing. Karen, at this point, just starts arguing with our neighbors about no proof. The board proceeds to apologize for the incident, and they were going to discuss what is going to happen in the future about this. At that point, the meeting is over. A month passes, and we get a letter that a new person will be in charge for Bentry Management and new investigators. She was fired that night. Since she was fired, my father tells me we only get the occasional blip of errors, but they correct it immediately and don't bother us really anymore. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day, Ann Swan, Drake Dillon, Taco Lord, and I'm Shivering. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many Rees as you can in the comments below. Let me control your relationship, parts 1 and 2, from user Unsolid Waste. After that, entitled Karen flushed my epilepsy meds, gets jail time, from user Skull Snipe. After that, Karen thinks my tattoo is too offensive, from user Dark. And then we'll be wrapping up with entitled Kid decides to scream at teachers over pretty much everything, from user RS Sheward. Thank you so much to our posters for letting us read your stories, and if you would like us to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, please subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories every single day. And for every thumbs up this video gets, one entitled parent gets a one-way trip to Mars. Let me control your relationship. Longtime lurker. Finally decided to post part 1 of the only story I have that fits here. I hope my phone format's right, so sorry if that's irritating. Some background. Fiance, then 21, female, and I, then 25, male. We're just starting to date, and she comes from a super strict family. I mean borderline cult. Father is compared to God. Questioning him is like giving yourself to the devil type deal. No cast intros, you're smart people. Fiance and I go to classes together for like 4 years, both in strong denial of feelings for each other. Her family moves across the nation, US of awesome, and I figure we're never gonna see each other again. We reconnect over a year later and realize feelings never died. She makes the first move and we start dating. Great. 6 months in, we plan a trip for me to visit her for 2 weeks and stay at her place, which she is renting from entitled parents. After plans are set, tickets are paid, and all is green, I get a message. Entitled Dad. Unsolid. I know things work differently in your family, but I expect that you will respect our traditions when you're visiting. I want you to ask my permission before dating my daughter, and I expect that you'll be staying with the rest of us in a house across the city. Me, wanting desperately to be respectful but equal. Well, we did already make our plans and arrangements. There's a place she set up in a separate room from hers. I find that unacceptable. If you're going to sleep in that house, then you'll have to share a room with my son. I would really like to talk this out in person when I'm there in a few weeks, so that we don't assume any tones. No messages back after that. But when I got there, I did eventually bring it up, and the 3 of us went outside to talk about it all. By then, Fiance had told me about his intentions to take that as my consent to give him control of our relationship, including whether or not we dated at all. I still wanted to be respectful, so I went with what I decided was a good compromise. Entitled Dad. Okay, I'm waiting for you to ask. Me. Okay, I want you to know, I'm not asking your permission out of the same respect you ask of me, sir. Please understand, if I ask for your permission and you refuse, I have no intention of breaking up with my fiancé over that. So to me, it's disrespectful and insulting to ask for your permission for something I don't intend. However, because I do respect you, I will ask for your blessing and hope that you're okay with us dating. What? No, you don't understand. I'm not asking for you to break up with her. I just want you to submit to me in the decisions you make as a couple, and especially while staying in my house. I'm sorry, sir, but that's not happening. I don't even submit to my dad. I'm not about to start with someone else's. And fiancé is renting that house from you with regular agreement on payments. Fiancé, we talked about this already. We deserve to be the ones making our choices. Entitled Dad, completely ignoring fiancé. You should have asked me before staying in my house with her. I'd rather you were sleeping here and visiting her for a couple of hours after work a few times a week. I'm not asking you to do anything difficult. Just defer to me when making choices in your relationship together. Me, I'm sorry. I paid out of pocket to be here for her birthday. I like you and all, and I'm glad to visit with her, but I'm not spending time with her again. I'm not giving that kind of control to anyone. How would your father feel if he heard you saying things like this? He would be happy. He raised his children to be strong and think for themselves. Well, I don't think you understand. I don't necessarily want your submission. I just want fiancé to make the choices I tell her to regarding your relationship. Well, that isn't happening either. You both talked about it already, and she said no. And frankly, I don't want that either. For us to have a healthy relationship, she has to act on her choices. That would be acting on yours. Waters, entitled Dad Turning Red. I don't think you understand. If you deny me this, there will be consequences that extend beyond you two. Me, I'm sorry, but the answer is no. Your advice and input is still welcome, and we'll consider it when you give it. But ultimately, all choice in our relationship is ours. I'm here to make a healthy relationship with fiancé, not a relationship with you through her. I see. I want you to think carefully before committing to this. Fiancé, we did, separately and together. We're a team, so we need to act like one. We can't be a team if someone else is controlling what we do. After that, we went inside. Part 2 if people ask for it, as this has gotten long. I'll wrap up part 1 by telling you that after that talk and my visit was finished, he had begun telling her siblings and all of her extended family what a horrible person I was, that I'm selfish and possibly abusive to my fiancé, and that I'm corrupting their little girl, and I convinced her into hating them and abandoning them, while also cutting her off from most of her contact with any of her siblings. Every time I meet another family member, it's all questions about how I treat her. Do I believe she should respect her parents, etc.? Up until then, I had a lot of respect for him and liked him quite a bit, and persisted to try to keep that until part 2 happened much more recently. Let me control your relationship, part 2. Context. At this point, fiancé and I, now 22 and 26, had gotten engaged and have everything needed set for the wedding. We're saving up for the final payments, and after a long talk, I managed to convince her to let me try to mend things with her parents. It's a wedding. Who deserves to miss their own child's wedding, right? So she agrees to let me message entitled Dad and ask his blessing again, as a way to test the waters. If he refuses, she's pretty confident he'll do something to ruin the day and doesn't want him there. After that fails, astonishingly, I'll say, he copies our entire conversation and emails it to every family member and her. The family all gets this with a message about how horrible I am and how I've guided fiancé into hating her parents. I'll add that he didn't send them the screenshot of me getting her to say I could stream it if they said they'd watch. I even cut the screen off so he didn't see the things she said about him. Next time, I might let him see. To fiancé, entitled Dad sends the same conversation with the following. Fiancé, do you agree with the attitude Unsolid has taken towards me? Very sad. After that, I've heard from 2 of her siblings and 1 of her aunts that I'm treating him very badly, and I shouldn't be keeping his daughter from him. They also all insist on saying we're living in sin, and even her sister, who used to be one of my best friends, now treats me like an invader. They also all treat fiancé as a brainwashed no-brain that can't think for herself. She's been reduced to not being allowed more than letters to her siblings. Aside from the 2 of the 3 that are 18 or older, the oldest is mini entitled Dad and keeps as distant as entitled Dad does. We decided we want to invite her siblings still, and any family members of hers who manage to show even a little support, or at least are understanding enough to not immediately assume we're bad people for wanting to control our own lives. Edit. Thanks.
Oh no, I'm gonna die!
Automating away all our basic autonomy. Basically pay for the fake aristocracy. Shaking the shame and the sickening policy. Saving on sacred and taking my property. Locked out for weed, locked out for poverty. Lots of us locked out for being anomalies. Logging us down if we ain't how we oughta be. How can I help when I ain't even proud of me? Perfect solution, I heard you been losing. Be sure to be nervous, like certainly choosing. He's certainly proving and curving and cruising through everything. Throwing at him, serving the truth. Gang bucks trickle up, hey, gang standing up. Hey, plain Jane's on a bus. Man, John Doe know it's us. Hey, yang bucks trickle up. Hey, gang standing up. Hey, plain Jane's on a bus. Man, John Doe know it's us. I just left my school, couldn't find a pot to piss in. Harsh recidivism, need an extra extradition. Imagine giving 10 Benjamins to kids in my position. That's your decision. It's so pernicious. With your permission, I hope you're listening. I really hope you listen. We're sick and tired, Yang is breaking the silence. Y'all way too pious, accepting what you're provided. Come out of hiding, take them all by surprise. We lost our pride, he's told us where we can find it. Yang bucks trickle up, hey, Yang gang standing up. Hey, plain Jane's on a bus. Man, John Doe know it's us. Hey, Yang bucks trickle up. Hey, Yang gang standing up. Hey, plain Jane's on a bus. Man, John Doe know it's us.